So any kind of an test or an examination that you take up, it has a certain purpose, right? So I have told you people that since this is one of the first assessments or tests that you are going to take, you have to be clear about what is it that this test is going to do. Now, there are two things. One is that you have to assess what you have learned by doing physics in 8th standard so far, the course on classical mechanics. And at the same time, it's also an assessment for the teacher, for myself, to figure out whether whatever I have taught, whatever I have delivered as content, whether that has been received by the students correctly or not. So in order to make that part clear, I use this assessment objective document, and I hope everybody can see the document. Yes?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So I have shared this document with you before, so most of you would have read through it, but let me just quickly go through it. What is the reason that I am doing the test for? Okay, so and what am I testing you for? So in a very simple way, it's stated as knowledge with understanding, handling information, and solving problems. These are the two broad objectives of conducting the assessment. So I want to know whether the students who have done this work with me, do they have knowledge with understanding of whatever we have taught, whatever we have learned together, and can you handle information that is given to you and solve problems, obviously from the topics that we have dealt with so far. So what do I mean by knowledge with understanding? So in this part, what I'm looking at is students should be able to demonstrate knowledge and understanding in relation to scientific phenomena, facts, laws, definitions, concepts, and theories. Be able to use scientific vocabulary, terminology, conventions like symbols, quantities, and units included. Use of scientific instruments and apparatus, including techniques of operation, aspects of safety. That's not so relevant for the test itself, but sometimes questions come in which you are supposed to use a digital balance or a weighing balance or some other equipment. And you should, like, for example, a clock or a digital watch, and you should know how those apparatuses actually work, perhaps without the actual equipment being in your hand. Scientific quantities and their determination. Under handling information and solving problems, students should be able, in words or using other written forms of representation, symbolic, graphical, and numerical, locate, select, organize, present information from a variety of sources, translate information from one form to another, manipulate numerical and other data, use information to identify pattern, report trends, draw inferences, present reasoned explanation for phenomena, something like what we did when we were talking about collisions, patterns and relationships, then make predictions and hypotheses, solve problems, including some of quantitative nature. These skills cannot obviously be precisely specified because questions testing such skills are often based on information which is unfamiliar to the students, in the sense that you may not have seen that particular question before, but you know the concept, you know the knowledge that goes into answering that question, or at least that is what I am testing you for. In answering such questions, students are required to use principles and concepts that are within the syllabus and apply them in a logical, deductive manner to a novel situation. By a novel situation, I mean a situation that may be unfamiliar to you. Questions testing these objectives will often begin with one of the following words: predict what will happen, suggest what might happen, calculate the value for, or determine if so and so will happen or is true, and so on. Okay.
Or even show, sir.
Beg your pardon? Show also. Yes. Such types of words. So you know that those questions will begin with that. And then we go on to look at the actual syllabus document, which is, I put as statements everything that we have studied so far, or at least those that I feel I can ask questions to you in the test about. So let me take effects of force, okay, as one example. I won't explain everything, that will take too long, but let me just take effects of force. Students should be able to state that a force may produce a change in size and shape of a body. Okay, do you know this? If you don't know about it, What should you know about it? If you know about it, then good. That means you can put a tick mark on that particular point. You say that I am familiar with this concept. If you are not sure, find some questions that that help you to understand what this concept means, so you know that you can answer the question. I will give you some examples from the sample paper that I have shared with you. Describe the ways in which a force may change the motion of a body. So you have to think, okay, can a force change the motion of a body? Oh yes, it can. What can it do? It can accelerate it, it can deaccelerate it, it can make it change the direction of motion. So these are the factors that I am aware of. Find the resultant of two or more forces acting along the same line. So then you have to imagine what you have studied before, what we have discussed in class. Straight line forces acting, sometimes they can be opposed to each other, sometimes they can be in the same direction. All right, I have a good idea of what that means. Recall and use the relation between force, mass, and acceleration, including the direction. So force, mass, and acceleration, which law did this come under? Okay, second law, I am aware of this. What is the relationship between these two things? Force is equal to mass multiplied by acceleration. All right, good. So my intention is that you use this syllabus document as a checklist. Okay, so you read each statement and you see if you are familiar with the statement, if you can think of examples, if you can answer some questions either from the textbook or something that you imagined it yourself, and arrive at a reasonably correct answer to that. Then you can say that, okay, I am familiar with it. Or if you say, no, I think I have forgotten, I know the statement, but I don't know how this is applied, go back to the textbook, go back to your notes, look at the written work that you have done, and recall yourself what that particular statement means in terms of application, questions, and concept. So then it becomes clearer to you what is expected of you. So any questions regarding this document up to what I have said so far?
No.
If you have any questions, you can raise it now.
Sir, I didn't understand the last point in speed, velocity, and acceleration.
Speed, velocity, and acceleration, last point. Oh, I thought you meant the entire thing. I didn't realize you were asking about the last point. Okay.
I was asking.
Describe quantitatively the motion of bodies falling under a uniform gravitational field using S is equal to ut plus gt square by 2. Okay, so although that particular form of the equation you have not seen, you have seen S is equal to gt square by 2. Where did we see it? We saw it under free fall, when an object is falling under the influence of gravity alone. And this particular section in the textbook under which it comes is how far, how fast, where we say when an object is falling under the influence of gravity, in every second, how much distance does it travel? We had a discussion about this in class. So you can use that particular discussion to understand this better. The reason why the equation may not seem familiar to you is because are you looking at the equation right now?
Yes.
The ut part, u multiplied by t, when you leave an object to fall from zero velocity, u is the initial velocity, it will be 0. So if u is 0, then ut becomes 0. So then you get s is equal to gt square by 2. Okay?
Yeah, or half gt square.
Or half gt square, yes. Half
Why
GT,
is u 0? What is t in this time, right?
the time for which it has fallen.
So why is time? Oh, okay. So u is 0.
U is 0. So whatever be the time, it will become 0. The whole quantity becomes 0. Okay, so with that, we can move on to the next part of it. So what I have done is, and some people were asking, why is it that the sample paper, which I'm going to talk about now, was not posted earlier? I didn't want to post the sample paper earlier before you people got a chance to start preparing, because if you get a sample paper, chances are that people who may not have started their preparation will go straight to the sample paper, attempt to solve it, and then one of the two things will happen. You may think you've got all the right answers, and you may think this is an easy thing, I don't even have to study for it, and you will be, in most cases, wrong if you arrive at that conclusion. I'll tell you why. The other thing may be, I'm not able to answer any of the questions, I don't know anything, and now you are in despair. So to avoid these two situations, even if you have now just started preparing, Don't look at the sample paper yet. I would suggest Wednesday, not earlier than that. But it's okay if you have completed your preparation, then you can try the sample paper. You can also use the sample paper to kind of figure out if you are going in the right direction. And I will suggest how, okay? So what is this sample paper? The sample paper is an actual paper that I used in the previous years. In this case, it is the paper that I used on 31st January 2020 to do the same weekly test for the preceding batch, your seniors, when they were in class 8. So it's an actual paper that was administered. They wrote the answers to this and were graded according to what they scored. Now, there are some instructions and suggestions, and I suggest you read that carefully once before you sit for the test. The instructions and suggestions are usually almost exactly the same. Now, there are basically two sections. Section 1 contains anything like 12 to 15 multiple choice questions, okay?
Yeah.
And multiple choice questions involving just 4 options. So there is a question, you have 4 options in which one of them is the correct answer. There are not more than one correct answer in this case, okay? So there is only one correct answer. And sometimes some of the answers may seem like they are also true, but there will be only one which will be more true than all the others. Okay, more true than all the others, and you have to figure that out. And then section 2, which is a descriptive type part, where there are again questions for which you have to write either a calculated answer, that is you do some arithmetic work on it and then you give the answer, or you write a statement as the answer. Yes, somebody had a question, you can ask.
Yeah, sir, I had a question.
Sure.
So, yeah, so like in our paper, do you have to show like rough work or just like write the answers?
It's always a good idea in any kind of an assessment to show the rough work. Say, for example, in this paper, students usually answer directly on the paper. You don't actually write the answers on a separate piece of paper. You don't need an answer sheet for this. But in this case, since you people are going to do it online, you will have to mark the answers separately. So you have an A4 sheet under which you make your choice. And beside it, in case there is any doubt, just write down the way in which you have calculated the answer. Like say, for example, the 7th question that you're seeing, if you want to write a reason why you think that is the answer, then write it down. The reason I'm saying is, just in case you have chosen the wrong answer and it was just a clerical error, you did the correct calculation and you wrote down which one was the right choice, but when you were finally writing the answer down on your answer script, instead of writing C, say you wrote D, then you lose the mark. But if your calculation is there on the side and that calculation happens to be the correct answer, then I can make a choice. I can say, okay, he or she has done the correct work, so I can award the mark. Just a copying error happened in the end. I choose not to penalize my students based on that. Okay, so that's by way of clarification to your question. Is that clear? Anything else?
Yeah, also one more thing, sir, that like in the school they could just have like tick the circle the right thing. We would have to write it, no?
You will just have to write down the correct option.
The
You don't have to
letter.
write the whole thing down, just write the correct option.
Just A, B, C, or D, no?
A, B, C, or D. Okay.
All
So
right.
coming to that, now when it comes to multiple choice questions, students always think coming out of the exam hall that they aced the test. Why? Because out of 15 or 14 multiple choice questions, I answered every one of them. Okay. Now there's a small problem in that. Whenever they come out feeling that, later when they find out that they got 7 wrong out of those 15 or 5 wrong out of those 15, they're usually surprised. Sometimes it can be worse. And the thing is that achievability factor is very high in multiple choice questions, because after all, you make a choice. You thought about something, you thought this is the correct answer, and you made a choice. The problem is that you may not have made sure that the option that you selected is the correct one. And let me explain. So let's take an example. Let's take this fifth question. Okay, a car moves along a level road. The diagram shows all of the horizontal forces acting on the car. So there's a 800 Newton to the left, 500 Newton friction to the left, and a 2000 Newton force from the engine to the right. Okay, which statement is correct is the question. All right, the car is slowing down. Now, how will you figure this out? You will have to say, I need to know what is the net force acting on the car, if any. Okay, so I add 800 and 500 because they are in the backward direction. How much is that? 1300, right?
1300. Right.
1300 newtons, and then 2000 newtons in the forward direction. So I immediately know that this car cannot be slowing down because the forward force is greater than the backward force.
700 newtons.
So the car is slowing down is not an option. So I strike out that option. Do you understand what I'm saying? So answering multiple choice questions is not so much about getting the correct answer, but to eliminate all the wrong ones. The car is speeding up. Then you say, yes, that is possible. I'll keep that as one option. Often what happens when you see B option and you say the car is speeding up, you say, yes, that's the correct answer. And then you bunk the other two statements. But it is very important to also eliminate the other two statements. Okay. So C says the car is moving at a constant speed. Now you have to think, no, that's not possible. Why? Because there is a 700 Newton net force acting in the forward direction. So it is not possible. So therefore strike that out. The car is moving backwards. You say definitely not possible because the engine is producing more force than the slowing down forces. So by eliminating A, C, and D, you can be 100% sure that B is the correct answer that you need to mark. Then you circle or tick or whatever. Okay. Now, these types of questions also have, this is called as a, this is something that I learned from ISER Pune actually. I attended a course in which they talked about how to ask questions in MCQs, because many teachers will say that MCQs are not a good thing because they don't show whether the students are thinking correctly or not. When I asked this question to the people who ran the course in ISER Pune, they told me you can make enhanced MCQs. And one of the ways in which enhancing MCQs is by asking a question, okay, which will say whether the student thought correctly or they just guessed the correct answer. So I say, if the force from the engine is reduced by 700 newtons, which statement would be true? So only if you did the calculation and you saw that the forward force is 700 more than the backward force, then you can answer this question. Because if the engine's force reduced by 700 newtons, then what is going to happen?
Dynamic equilibrium.
Then it will be in dynamic equilibrium. Then,
which means the car is moving at constant speed.
Exactly. Then B is no more the correct answer. C will be the.
Sir, so in the
Right
test also we'll be getting similar questions like this.
Yes, madam. You will be getting similar questions, but not the same question. Don't worry.
But I have something to say. If there was another checkpoint saying the car is moving forward, before the right answer, then it would have been a killer question. Like everybody would have got it wrong.
Everybody would have
got it wrong because they would think, there is right.
Okay, good thing you asked that question, because I want to make another statement very clear from my side. The objective of somebody setting a test should never be to trick the students. Okay, so no tricks involved. There are no tricks. You may end up tricking yourself by not following the correct procedure. That's a different thing, but I do not intend to trick you. So whatever information I am putting on the question paper, it is all direct, straightforward. Okay, there is no trickery involved, because I want you to score marks. I want you to get good grades. I don't want to fail you in the test. Yes.
You may trick yourself thinking that you set up a trick.
Exactly. That is why I make this statement clear. So you may think, it's such a silly question. The answer is so straightforward. Is there some trick involved over here? Don't second guess. I am not trying to trick you. Okay. No tricks involved. If you feel that the answer is straightforward, just check whether all your options are correctly being evaluated. And if you still feel it is correct, then that is correct. I can ask simple questions also. Okay, direct questions. For after all, I want to.
This is sometimes confusing. Like when there's too simple a question, you feel like, no, it must be a beer.
but I have said I want to assess whether you know the concept of speed, right? So if I ask a very straightforward question, like say over here, third question, right? A car takes 15 minutes to travel along a road that's 20 kilometers long. What is the average speed of the car? You may say, what is this 20 divided by 15 minutes converted into hours, because the answer all comes in hours. And 15 minutes is 1/4 of an hour, 1/3. Then you do the calculation and say, it can't be such a simple one. But it is. It's just simple because I want to know whether you get the concept of average speed. So how else will I do it? I'll ask the most simplest and straightforward question that is possible. Okay, so don't think I'm trying to trick you. No tricks involved. I'm repeating myself now. Okay, then the next thing is, what happens if you looked at the information and you put an answer and later you were solving some other problem and you realized, oh, no, the third one, I think I made a mistake. So you made, let's say that your answer earlier was B, but then you found out the answer was something else. Then what do you do? Okay, so the simplest thing is just strike out completely and then write the correct option, because you're going to write down A, B, C, D, right? So you wrote A, you strike out A, and then you write C, whatever you think is the correct answer, but make it clear. Don't give two options and say that I have to now make the choice. I will not make the choice. I will not mark you for that. So if you have written more than one answer, you will not be marked for that, because then I don't know which one you mean to be the correct one, the first one or the last one. I do not know. I will not make a guess. Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sir.
Thoda upar se aana, fourth, justify your answer. Matlab you have to give the reasoning why you.
Yes, I was just coming to that. Good thing you asked that question. When I say justify your answer, I have given 3 line spaces, correct? So your answer should fit inside those 3 line spaces. Sometimes students write answers and it goes into the margins and all that. Okay, so no need to write that much. I'm not checking your knowledge of English language. I'm just seeing if you are able to justify the answer in terms of the physics question. So think about it a little bit and write only as much as you should write. Your answer should neither be too less than the space provided, neither should it be too much more than the space provided. It can be a little less, it can be a little bit more. How little less, how much little more, I leave you to decide that. Is it clear?
Yeah, sir.
So justification when you have been asked to write, or in the second part of the paper where you have been asked to write statements down, please adhere to the space provided. The space provided has been given keeping in mind how much a student needs to write to explain themselves. If you are writing too less, then you probably don't know the answer. If you are writing too much more, it could still mean that you do not know the answer. So either way, you're trying to ham it, or you just said the first thing that comes to your mind. So you have to be careful about the space that you are using. Okay. So once you have started or completed your preparation, then try to answer these questions. On Wednesday, I will post the answers to these. There will be an answer key that will be posted. You can check it against the answers that you have written, and then we can have a discussion if required on one of the following days. I don't know. Do we have a class on Thursday? We don't know. Thursday or Friday. Anyway, there's something out. We can always take extra time for that. All right. Any questions? Okay. So what was your question, Shiv? If you can just ask that.
Yeah. So like you mentioned that in the MCQs, like another option can be like more right. Like one option can be more right than the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, which one do we choose then?
Yeah. So see, the thing is, again, go by the principle of elimination. A person steps, let's look at this question. I don't know if this will fall under that category, but let's say it does. A person steps onto bathroom scales. The bathroom scales, by the way, bathroom scales means a weighing machine.
Weighing scale.
Okay, so sometimes the English may be a little bit like that. Records both mass and weight. The bathroom scale records both mass and weight. Okay, which row shows the readings on the scale? So there are 4 options given. Mass is written as 60 newtons and weight is 600 kilograms. 60 kilograms, 600 newtons. 600 kilograms, 60 newtons. 600 newtons, 60 kilograms. Okay. So let us say that now you're looking at this information and you're saying, okay, mass and weight, I knew there was something to this, but right now my mind blanked. Okay, I don't know which is which. So let me look at it a little more carefully. What did sir say? Eliminate the ones that are not correct, and then you may be left with a smaller choice to make. Fine. I know that mass is the one that is measured in kilograms. Okay, because we don't talk about mass. I remember that thing that he said in class, when somebody asks you what is your weight, you have to answer in newtons. So I remember that very clearly. So I look at my first column under mass and I see that B and C are coming as kilograms. And I know that mass is measured in kilograms. So I eliminate A and D, but I still have B and C to deal with. Okay, you may think, what's the big deal? I still don't know the correct answer. But see, with an MCQ, and here's a little bit of a trick. The chances of getting a right answer in random by just randomly selecting is 25%.
Yes.
Okay, 25% randomly. Chance. You may be wrong, but there's a 25% chance you may be right. But if you remove two options, which you know surely are wrong, then you improve your chances to 50%. It's like a toss of a coin now.
Yeah.
It's like KBC has this option, right? That 50-50.
Yeah, 50-50 is much better than 25-75. When it was,
but then you have these enhanced MCQs. So what are I supposed to do with them?
Yeah, but this one is not an enhanced MCQ, so you can surely use the trick over here.
Sir, but okay. I don't think
so then you can use your logic. Let me just finish this point. So then you can use your logic to figure out which is correct out of these two, 600 kilograms to 600 newtons or 600 kilograms to 60 newtons. And now the answer may be staring at you in the face. A person cannot be 600 kilograms in mass and be 60 newtons in weight on earth, which is what we are usually talking about. So then the option becomes clear. But even if you did not know at this point of time and you just did an inky pinky ponky and selected one, you still have a 50% chance of getting the answer right, because you know A and D are definitely not correct. So never leave an MCQ unanswered unless there are negative marks, and there are no negative marks in my test, so you don't have to worry about it. Always make a choice. Don't say, I didn't know the answer, so I left it. Write something, A, B, C, D, whatever. Okay.
There's a chance you can be correct.
There may be a chance you are correct. You may undeservingly get a mark, but that's all right. It's part of it.
I have a question.
The question that is asked is, in order to answer this particular question that you're seeing on the screen, don't you need to know the circumference of the pen? So I said the circumference of the pen, if required for giving the correct answer, will be provided. Okay, so if it is not provided, then you say that, well, in that case, there must be a way of doing this without actually knowing the circumference. And I'll tell you the reason why. These questions are not questions that have been designed by me. They have been professionally designed. Okay, and I take it from another source, and the chances of that source being wrong is very, 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 very low. Okay, because they do it professionally, they do it internationally, and hundreds of thousands of students write their tests every year. In fact, twice every year. Okay, so the chances of the question itself being wrong is very low in the MCQ side. On the second section, there can be something, but especially if I selected the questions myself, but I always answer my questions beforehand, and I see to it that there are unique answers that are possible, unless of course it is an interpretation, then students are free to interpret their answers. So is that clear? So I hope that video made it clear to the students what is the purpose of assessment, what kind of assessment tools that are used in this test, and through the sample paper, what are the kinds of strategies that you would use to answer the question, and what are the mistakes that you would avoid. Hopefully that's sufficient for you to prepare well for your test, and I wish to see you all do as best as you can in the upcoming test. If you like the video, please click on the like button, share your comments. It's always very useful to know what you're thinking. I'll surely give replies in case there are questions. do consider subscribing and suggesting this video and others in my channel to anybody who might find it useful. Thank you. Until next time.